Hello everyone, I welcome you all for this lecture on the plant layout. In the previous lecture, we have discussed various types of plant layouts, that is product layout and process layout. Let us start this lecture with the comparison between the functional and line layout, that is process and product layout. Now there are some points with respect to them. These layouts are differentiated. Now first, let us see the characteristic about the nature. So in the product layout, the sequence of work centers are arranged as per the processing requirements of a product. So in case of process layout, all the similar work centers are grouped together. The second difference is about the application. Product layout is utilized for mass production, and here variety is very less. Where process layout is used, where volume is high and also variety is high. So, if we consider the characteristic product, so usually product layout is preferred for a standardized product, and where there is a stable rate of output. That means we can consider here the demand is constant. So process layout is useful for a product where it has the variety and it has common operations. So if you consider the workflow, product layout works in a straight line with the same sequence of operations for all the products, where in process layout the workflow is variable. Material handling is usually automated and predictable and systematic in product layout, whereas it is very difficult to automate the workflow or material handling in process layout. If we consider the inventory, so work in process inventory is high, and also turnover of raw materials high in product layout, whereas work in process inventory is less in case of process layout. If we consider the breakdowns, so breakdown in any one machine stops the production line. But in case of process layout, if any of the machine breaks down, so it can tolerate this and it cannot entirely halt the production. So production center planning is simple in case of product layout, whereas it is complex or difficult in process layout. If you consider the flexibility point, then there is a low flexibility in case of product layout, because if there is any change in the new design, if there is any new product or a change in design of the existing product, then this line gets unbalanced, so there is a less flexibility, whereas in process layout usually flexibility is high. If we consider the space utilization, product layout is efficient one than the process layout. And last, the production cost. With respect to product layout, the product cost is high fixed cost, that is there is a huge investment, and low variable cost, whereas in case of process layout there is a low fixed cost and high variable cost. Now let us move to the next type of layout, that is fixed position layout. This is different than the product layout or process layout, because here in these layouts the product moves with respect to stationary production equipments, that is machines, whereas in this case fixed position layout, the men and machineries are to be moved towards the raw material. So here your work component remains at one place, and men and machineries are to be transported at one place where the material is fixed. So examples are shipbuilding, aircraft manufacture, big pressure vessels. So in their manufacturing, we need to transport the men, that is workers and machineries, to that particular location. So it has certain advantages as compared to other product and process layouts. So it is possible to assign one or more skilled workers to a project from start to finish in order to ensure continuity of work. So we can assign in better way the skilled workers here. Also, here the work in process inventory is less, so also material handling is less. So there is a maximum flexibility for all sort of changes in product and process. So there is a variety of work, so the manpower should be the skilled one. As the task varies in its characteristics, the workers, as they are skilled, they can adapt the change. So here number of different projects can take place in the same layout. Her layout remains same. That means the work is at one place and the resources are to be moved at that place. So it has certain disadvantages, such as it has low work in process inventory, and there is a low utilization of labor and equipments. As we see in such projects, the labor remains idle many times and equipments as well. Also, here the major disadvantage is the handling cost of the equipments, because it needs to be moved from one place to another, that is at the work center itself. So its application involves a very limited scope, usually for production of large items to be manufactured either in a single or in many lots. Now let us compare these three layouts: product, process, and fixed position layouts. Again, the points of comparison are product, workflow, human skill, material handling, inventory, capital requirement, product cost, and space utilization. So you can graze through these differences, they are easy. Now let us move on to the next slide, which is related to the cellular layout. Now this is the usually the last layout in this presentation. So why it is called as cellular layout? It is also called as group technology layout, because here the arrangement of manufacturing requirements is based on the similarities. So here equipment and workstations are used to produce or facilitate continuous production flow in small lots. So every cell contains a group of machines which are dedicated to production of family of parts. That means here the operations are grouped together. Here production facilities are grouped together based on their similarity of production parts. So if one of the problems is to here identify the family parts that require the same group of machines. So based on the operations to be carried out on the work, so here we can plan the layout. So these layouts are also called as group technology layouts, and they are used to make the parts in just in time manufacturing. So it has the application in JIT, that is just in time manufacturing technology. So it is based on the group technology. So group technology is nothing but the organization of parts into families with the similar manufacturing requirements, and the manufacturing cell is created for each part family. Now let us see here an example of group technology. So on the left side we see the unorganized parts. So there are many parts and they are scattered one, so they are manufactured randomly. Now if we see the similarities in these parts, or we can say the part families. Now we can classify these parts, whether which parts are to be turned on the lathe machines, which parts have the geometric similarities, and then which are the formed parts. So we can identify their operating similarities, geometric similarities, or process similarities, and we can classify the machines as well according to their requirement. In the next slide, let us see the process flow before group technology and process flow after group technology. If we consider here, the different sections in the layout are available, that is welding section, turning section, heating section, milling, forming and raw material. Also the material flow is or material handling is also indicated here. So if we consider here the process flow before the group technology arrangement, so this is the very random and it might lead to congestion or bottlenecks. But if we rearrange the machines according to the families, so we can consider here the raw material and its production flow. So if we consider here and rearrange the machines, because every part needs the heat treatment, so heat treatment section is the last section, and in between raw materials, that is stores and heat treatment, the machines are arranged as per their the sequence of operations. Because here if we consider the process flow before group technology layout, every part needs the forming operation. So on one side we can group the forming machines as per the dimensional similarity, and then each of the component is to be transported to the next section. Now if we consider here, there are different advantages for cellular layout. Here the material handling is reduced, also the traveling time is reduced. Here is also setup time is reduced, work in process inventory is reduced. Here the human resources utilization is better, scheduling and controlling is easy. Here less floor space is required. Here direct labor cost is reduced. Also there is a heightened sense of employee participation, that means the morale is higher in these layouts for the employees. So also here the utilization of equipment and machinery is more, and reduced investment on machinery and equipment. So it has also disadvantages, such as sometimes sales may not be found because of inadequate part families. Sometimes sale may have high volume of production and others very low. This results in poor balanced sales. That means here the balancing is very poor. When the volume of production changes, number of workers are adjusted and workers are reassigned to various cells. To cope with this type of reassignments, workers must be multi-skilled and cross-trained. So this is one of the disadvantages. Sometimes machines are duplicated in different cells. This increases the capital cost. So here is a layout planning procedure. So there are many steps in layout planning procedure. So we can go through this procedure now. Now first step in layout planning is the collection of basic data. So basic data is related to the quantity to be produced and its rate of production. Then the product specifications, bill of materials, what are the tool requirements, what are the equipments needed, then the process flow charts, then the standard time of each operation. All these details should be collected. Then in the next step, the data which is collected, it has to be analyzed and coordinated with respect to the workforce and size, the number of workstations required, type of equipment required, storage facilities, then assembly line chart. These parameters to be taken into account. Once the data is analyzed, then we have to choose the equipment and machinery required. So here we have to decide how many equipments are required to meet the production target, and it is to be calculated on the basis of what is the volume, what is the capacity of each equipment, and what is the time. So these parameters are considered while deciding the equipment and machineries. So once the machinery is selected, we have to select then material handling system. So material handling chart should be prepared. Then the length of movement, frequency of movement, speed of movement, etc. needs to be analyzed. Then we have to prepare a sketch or plot for making a factory building. So sketch for the plot we have to make its outline like roads, storage, services, etc. So here orientation should be such that the we have to utilize the natural heat, light, and other weather conditions. Then we have to generally determine the general flow pattern. So here we have to make the use of travel charts, multiple flow patterns. Then we can adopt the process layout or product layout or combination layout based on these flow patterns. Then next we have to design the individual workstation for achieving the optimum performance of operations. So assemble the individual layout into the total layout. Here we have to integrate this each of the individual layout into total layout. Then we have to calculate the storage space required for the raw materials, the number of items to be kept in store, time uh, for each item to be kept in store. Then make flow diagrams for workstations, plan and locate service areas such as office, toilets, washrooms, tool rooms, rest and lunch rooms, etc. And last one is we have to prepare the master layout. Now once the master layout is prepared, we have to check the final layout about the principles of layout such as integration, material handling, smooth flow, cubic space utilization, about the safety of working environment, flexibility. So in align with the design principles of plant, we have to check final layout. Then we have to get approval and then install this approved layout. And last point is related to material handling. As we discussed, the material handling should be uh, as less as possible because it cannot be avoided. But if you consider the cost of material handling, it amounts to the 15 to 25% of total cost of product according to American Society of Material Handling. So material handling is the art and science involving the movement, handling and storage of material during the different storage stages of manufacturing. So out of total time spent for manufacturing a product, 20% of time is utilized for actual processing of them, while the remaining 80% of time is spent in moving from one place to another, that is waiting for the processing or storage. So this is important point. Next one, if we consider the material handling process, it has to be followed to certain principles like planning principle, systems principle, space utilization principle, unit load principle, gravity principle, material flow principle, simplification principle, safety principle, mechanization principle, that means automation. Then standardization principle, that means material handling system should be the standard one, there should be the enough flexibility, the equipment should have enough capacities for the lifting weights. Dead weight principle, what is the weight of equipment. Then motion principle, idle time principle, maintenance principle, its obsolescence principle, capacity principle, control principle, and performance principle. All these principles are to be studied and implemented while selecting the material handling system. And last important type is here the material handling equipment. So usually material handling equipments are classified on the basis of services required, types of equipment, relative mobility of equipment, and movement of equipment. So on the basis of types of services required, such as lifting devices, moving devices, stacking devices, and positioning devices, these material handling systems are classified. So if we consider the types of equipments, then these equipments are nothing but the conveyors, cranes and hoists, that is overhead cranes, industrial trucks, that is forklifts. Then next one is the relative mobility of equipment, that is travel between fixed point and travel over wide areas. So this is related to mobility of equipment. Last one is the movement of equipment, that is whether it is on the floor, above the floor, overhead or underground. So these are the types of material handling system. So dear friends, thank you for watching this video. I hope you have made the better understanding here. Thank you.